You ever notice how the loudest people in the room are usually the weakest ones? The ones who complain, who defend, who explain every move they make. They drain their own power. See, strong people don't waste breath proving themselves. They don't react to every noise, every opinion, or every piece of nonsense thrown their way. They understand something simple. Silence is control. When you stop complaining, you reclaim your focus. When you stop explaining, you protect your peace. And when you relax, truly relax, you show the world that nothing and no one can shake your core. Because real confidence doesn't need to be explained. It's felt. The moment you start complaining, you hand over your power. It sounds simple, maybe even harsh, but it's true. Every time you open your mouth to complain, you're saying to the world, I can't handle this. You're admitting that your emotions are in charge, not your mind. And once you give that control away, you're no longer driving your own life. You've allowed your circumstances, your frustrations, or even other people to take the wheel. Complaining feels good for a moment. It releases pressure. But that feeling is deceptive. It tricks you into thinking you've done something when, in reality, you've done nothing. You've just spent your energy narrating your weakness instead of working your strength. Think about how often people sit together and complain about everything: their job, their boss, their family, their luck. It becomes a habit, a kind of small talk that feels safe, but nothing grows there. Complaining doesn't change your situation, it just validates your victimhood. When you speak from frustration, you feed that frustration. The more you talk about what's wrong, the stronger it becomes in your mind. And before long, you start seeing yourself as someone who always has something to complain about. That's how you lose control. Not in one big moment, but in small daily doses of negativity that quietly eat away at your confidence. The people who truly hold power, the ones who seem unshakable, rarely complain. It's not because their lives are easier. It's because they understand that their words carry energy. They know that when you complain, you shift focus from what you can do to what you can't. And that's a dangerous trade. Power thrives on responsibility, the kind where you look at your life and say, this might not be fair, but it's still mine to handle. That's control. That's ownership. And that's how you take your power back. When you stop complaining, something interesting happens. You start listening. You begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You start observing instead of reacting. And once you do that, you regain emotional control, which is everything. The most powerful person in any room isn't the one who dominates the conversation. It's the one who stays centered no matter what's happening around them. That kind of calm doesn't come from perfection. It comes from discipline. It comes from refusing to let small irritations steal your focus. So when you feel that urge to complain, pause, breathe. Ask yourself what complaining will actually fix. Usually, the answer is nothing. But that pause, that moment of awareness, is where your power lives. It's where you shift from being a reactor to being a strategist. Complaining will always be the easy route. Control is the harder one. But if you want strength, you have to choose the path that keeps your power in your own hands. Stop narrating your pain and start building your peace. Because the moment you decide not to complain, you've already won half the battle. Every time you start explaining yourself, you start leaking energy. You hand pieces of your strength to people who never deserved it in the first place. You tell yourself you're just clearing things up, just making them understand. But let's be honest, most people who judge you have already made up their minds. They're not asking to understand you. They're asking to control the way you feel about yourself. And when you begin to explain, you play their game. You step into their arena where you'll always lose because you're fighting for approval that doesn't matter. Explaining is a habit that comes from insecurity. You want people to see your heart, your intentions, your reasons. You want them to know you didn't mean harm, that your choices make sense. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone a guided tour of your life. People who respect you won't demand an explanation. They'll trust your actions, your consistency, and your silence. The ones who keep pressing, questioning, or twisting your words. They're not trying to understand you. They're trying to shake you. And when you explain, you give them exactly what they're looking for. a reaction. Strong people understand the value of silence. They don't rush to justify themselves when someone misreads their intentions. They know who they are, and they're comfortable being misunderstood. That's real strength, being at peace even when others create their own version of you. Every time you explain, you spend emotional currency you'll never get back. It's like giving a speech to an audience that's already walked out of the room. The energy is wasted. The peace is gone. And in the end, you're left tired, frustrated, and still not understood. You don't need to convince anyone that you're doing the right thing. You don't need to soften your truth just to be accepted. If something in your life feels right, if it aligns with who you are and where you're going, then that's all the explanation you need. People who care about you will understand through your behavior, not your words. People who don't will twist whatever you say to fit their story. So why even engage? Protect your peace like it's gold, because it is. The moment you stop explaining, you free yourself from emotional negotiations. You stop living for approval and start living from intention. You stop reacting to noise and start acting from purpose. You begin to move quietly, confidently, without needing validation. And that's where real power lives, in silence. When you stop explaining, people notice. They sense the calm. They sense the control. You become a mystery they can't figure out, and that's a good thing. Power is not about being understood. It's about being certain. So keep your energy close. Let your actions speak. Let your results do the talking. Because the loudest explanations mean nothing compared to quiet confidence. Strength isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with chaos or arguments. Real strength is quiet, steady, and intentional. It's the calm in the middle of a storm, the presence of mind when everything around you is falling apart. Most people mistake aggression for power, but power that needs to shout is weak. Emotional discipline, the ability to control your reactions, to measure your words, to remain grounded even when pressure mounts. That is strength. When you master yourself, no situation, no insult, no obstacle can truly shake you. Every day, life throws challenges in your direction. Traffic, deadlines, criticism, failed plans, unpredictable people. It's relentless, and it's easy to react impulsively, to let anger, frustration, or fear dictate your actions. But when you pause, breathe, and choose how to respond, you separate yourself from the crowd. That pause is not weakness. It is power. It signals to the world that you are not a victim of circumstance. You are not controlled by your emotions. You are in control of yourself, and that is an unshakable place to stand. Emotional discipline doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It doesn't mean suppressing anger or fear. It means recognizing them, understanding them, and deciding not to let them dominate your decisions. The strongest people feel the same emotions everyone else does: doubt, frustration, hurt. But they don't let those feelings spill into their actions in ways that weaken them. They respond with intention rather than impulse. They choose peace over chaos. They understand that every reaction is a reflection of character, and character is more powerful than circumstance. The people who are truly untouchable are not those who fight the hardest or speak the loudest. They are the ones who remain steady when others lose their balance. They move through conflict without being consumed by it. They face criticism without collapsing under it, and they face uncertainty without panicking. That is strength. That is emotional discipline. And it is rare because it requires constant practice, self-awareness, and courage. It's easier to scream, to argue, to lash out. But the strong choose a harder path. They choose control, even when no one is watching, even when the pressure is unbearable. When you embrace this kind of discipline, you discover freedom. You stop being reactive, and you start being deliberate. You stop giving away your power in the heat of the moment and start using it where it matters. Your presence becomes commanding, not because you demand attention, but because you radiate stability. People notice. Opportunities open. Conflicts resolve more smoothly. And through it all, you carry yourself with a quiet confidence that cannot be dismantled by external forces. This is the strength that lasts. This is the power that no one can take from you. When you choose to remain calm, composed, and unwavering, you become untouchable, and life begins to bend in your favor. Energy is far more powerful than words. People will forget what you say, but they will never forget how you make them feel. Every movement, every glance, every breath carries information about who you are long before your mouth opens. You can try to explain yourself, to justify your actions, to defend your choices, but none of that matters if the energy you carry tells a different story. People sense it instinctively. They read your confidence, your calm, your fear, your tension, without a single word. Energy is the silent language of truth, and it is more persuasive than anything you could ever say. When you walk into a room, your energy precedes you. If you are anxious, scattered, or desperate for validation, people notice it immediately. If you are calm, grounded, and confident, people feel it even before they meet you. That energy communicates strength, composure, and certainty. You don't need to explain why you're capable or why you deserve respect. Your energy does that for you. Every gesture, every posture, every pause is a signal that either draws people in or pushes them away. Protect that energy fiercely, because once it's compromised, no explanation or apology can reclaim it. Too often, people give their energy away without realizing it. They engage in arguments, they try to convince, they react emotionally to every criticism. Each time they do, they invest their most valuable resource in something that drains rather than builds. Energy spent defending yourself is energy stolen from your goals, from your focus, from your peace. The people who truly succeed, who leave a mark without trying to prove themselves, are the ones who conserve their energy. They are deliberate about where they invest their presence and their attention. They understand that energy is currency and it cannot be wasted on noise. The subtlety of energy is what makes it so powerful. You don't have to dominate a conversation to be remembered. You just have to be present in a way that cannot be ignored. When your energy is steady, others feel it unconsciously. It inspires confidence, commands respect, and creates influence without a single word. People will follow your lead, trust your decisions, and respect your boundaries because they have felt your strength, even in silence. Words can be manipulated, twisted, or forgotten, but energy is always authentic. It reflects the truth of who you are. So, protect your energy like your life depends on it, because in many ways, it does. Be mindful of the company you keep, the conversations you enter, and the situations you invest in. Let your energy reflect your values, your focus, and your inner calm. Understand that no amount of words can compensate for depleted or scattered energy. People will read you, even when you don't speak. They will respond to the strength you carry, the composure you hold, and the clarity you project. Master your energy, and the world will respond to you before you even say a word. True respect is earned quietly, not shouted into existence. The most intimidating people you meet are not the ones filling the room with their voices, arguing their point, or demanding attention. They are the ones who say less, but whose presence is undeniable. Silence has a weight that words can never match. It forces others to pause, to observe, and to reckon with the fact that your confidence does not depend on their approval. People may try to provoke you, test your boundaries, or question your choices, but when you remain calm and silent, they quickly realize that you are unshakable. That realization alone commands respect. When you don't justify yourself, you make a statement without saying a word. Every explanation carries the hidden message that you need validation or approval. Every argument signals that your confidence is negotiable, but when you choose silence, you signal the opposite, that you are certain of your path, that you own your decisions, and that you do not require anyone else to validate your existence. Silence becomes a shield. It protects your energy, your focus, and your peace, while simultaneously asserting authority. People sense it instinctively, and instinctive respect is the most powerful kind because it does not need to be earned repeatedly. It is immediate. Silence also allows you to observe. While others are busy talking, justifying, or complaining, you are gathering information, reading energy, and understanding dynamics. You notice patterns, motivations, and weaknesses that are invisible to the loudest voices in the room. That knowledge is power. By choosing when to speak and when to remain silent, you control the narrative without ever having to engage in the chaos. You become the person who acts deliberately rather than reacts emotionally, and that difference is enormous. It is the subtle force that people sense, and it is far more commanding than the loudest argument. People who understand silence know that it does not mean weakness. Many confuse quiet with submission, but the opposite is true. Silence demonstrates strength and restraint. It shows that you do not need to prove yourself to anyone because you are grounded in your own understanding of your worth. When you stop explaining, begging, or defending yourself, others begin to respect not only your choices, but your character. You become untouchable not through intimidation, but through presence. Your calmness, your ability to withhold reaction, and your clarity in thought make you formidable in ways that words alone never could. In a world obsessed with noise, silence is revolutionary. When you learn to command respect through your quiet, deliberate presence, you gain power that cannot be challenged or manipulated. People will notice, even if they cannot articulate why. They will hesitate before crossing you, think twice before judging you, and intuitively recognize that you are someone whose energy cannot be controlled. That is the kind of respect that lasts, and it is earned not by shouting, but by knowing when to remain silent, standing firm, and letting your composure speak for you. Peace is power. It sounds simple, almost obvious, but most people misunderstand it. They think calmness is passive, that relaxation means you're giving up, that stillness is a sign of weakness. Nothing could be further from the truth. True peace requires control, focus, and courage. It is the ability to remain centered when the world is spinning out of control. It is the quiet confidence that allows you to stand firm, even when everyone around you is panicking, complaining, or demanding. To be at peace is to know that no circumstance, no insult, and no pressure can dictate your state of mind. When you stay calm under pressure, you immediately gain a strategic advantage. People act differently around you. Their chaos becomes your observation. Their urgency becomes your information. While others react, you assess. While others lose composure, you find solutions. Peace is not avoidance. It is preparation. It is the internal space you create to think clearly, act decisively, and move with purpose. People who equate action with loudness or panic will never understand the quiet force of someone who operates from calm, but you do. You know that composure is a weapon, and you carry it every day. Relaxation in the midst of chaos is not surrender. It is mastery. When someone attacks you with criticism, drama, or expectation, your choice to remain unshaken sends a message far louder than any argument could. You are not fragile. You are not reactive. You are in control of your energy, and therefore, you are in control of the situation. That kind of presence cannot be fabricated or faked. It is cultivated through discipline, awareness, and the constant decision to prioritize your inner peace over temporary validation or reaction. Peace also amplifies focus. When your mind is calm, distractions lose their power. Gossip, criticism, and unnecessary conflict no longer steal your attention. You can see clearly what needs to be done, make decisions without being swayed by emotion, and act with precision. People may mistake your calm for complacency, but the truth is, while they burn energy in emotional storms, you are moving efficiently toward your goals. That is power few recognize, but everyone feels. Presence rooted in peace commands respect, attracts allies, and repels unnecessary conflict. Choosing peace is a daily exercise. It is a commitment to not be hijacked by every minor frustration, to not engage in every argument, and to not allow external chaos to define your inner state. It is the understanding that the world will always test you, but your response is always yours to choose. When you make peace your strategy, you are untouchable. You become a quiet force that others can sense but cannot control. You demonstrate strength not through aggression or volume, but through grounded, unwavering composure. And that is how true power is wielded. Silently, steadily, and with complete mastery of yourself. Every time you engage with gossip, criticism, or negativity, you give it power. The moment you react, you turn someone else's noise into your problem. You validate it by paying attention, by letting it penetrate your mind, by allowing it to disturb your peace. Noise thrives on reaction. It grows stronger when you acknowledge it, when you defend yourself, when you argue, or when you try to prove them wrong. The world is full of people trying to pull you into arguments that don't serve you, debates that don't matter, and distractions that steal your energy. Choosing not to engage is not weakness, it is strategy. Silence makes noise uncomfortable. When you refuse to participate in gossip, when you don't respond to petty criticism, when you choose to remain neutral instead of reactive, you create a kind of tension that is powerful. People who rely on stirring drama or stirring doubt realize quickly that their words cannot reach you. They feel frustrated because you are not giving them what they want: attention, a reaction, an emotional charge. That frustration is evidence of your strength. By staying still, by not feeding the noise, you reclaim control over your energy and your focus. Negativity can be seductive. It often comes disguised as concern, advice, or helpful commentary. People will try to convince you that you need to address every slight, correct every misunderstanding, and defend yourself in every argument. But doing so only amplifies the noise. You are not obligated to participate in every story, to correct every misconception, or to calm every upset ego. When you step back, observe, and refuse to be pulled in, you conserve energy, maintain clarity, and protect your mental space. That's where your real power resides. The more you practice ignoring unnecessary noise, the more you develop resilience. It becomes easier to distinguish between what requires your attention and what doesn't. You learn to invest yourself only in things that align with your values, your goals, and your peace. Everything else is background static, distracting but ultimately powerless against your focus. People will talk, criticize, and speculate no matter what you do. Your reaction is the only thing that gives them leverage. By staying silent, you remove that leverage completely. Choosing not to feed the noise is an active form of strength. It requires awareness, self-discipline, and patience. You must catch yourself before you react impulsively, before you defend, before you engage. You must remind yourself that your time, energy, and peace are too valuable to be spent on chaos that does not serve you. Every moment you refuse to participate, every argument you choose to let go, and every distraction you ignore, you reclaim power. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence, a quiet assertion that you will not be shaken, manipulated, or distracted by the trivialities that dominate so many others. And when you master this, you become untouchable in a world that thrives on noise. Change is uncomfortable for most people, not because it's difficult, but because it threatens their expectations of you. When you evolve, when you grow beyond old habits, relationships, or situations, some people will resist. They will question you, criticize you, and demand explanations. They want the old version of you because it fits into their narrative. But the truth is, you owe no one a justification for becoming who you are meant to be. Growth is personal, and it is not negotiable. It is a process that happens quietly, internally, and it does not require the approval of anyone else. When you start living for yourself, you will inevitably leave things behind. Friends who no longer resonate, routines that no longer serve you, environments that limit your potential, they will all need to fall away. And with that comes the pressure to explain. People will ask why you've changed, why you're moving on, or why you no longer behave the way they expect. But explanations are not required. Your evolution is not a betrayal, it is a natural progression. Just as a tree sheds old leaves to grow new ones, you shed parts of your life that no longer align with your growth. Too often, people hold themselves back because they fear judgment. They stay stuck in toxic dynamics, unproductive patterns, or limiting beliefs because leaving would mean facing questions and criticism. But the moment you recognize that you owe no explanation for your growth, you reclaim freedom. You stop negotiating your peace. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You start living in alignment with your values, your purpose, and your vision. Growth becomes effortless because it is no longer dependent on external validation. Evolving is also a signal of strength. It shows that you are aware of yourself, willing to take responsibility for your life, and courageous enough to step into uncertainty. Not everyone will understand that strength. Some may try to guilt you into staying small or to convince you that your changes are wrong. But their misunderstanding is irrelevant. Your journey is yours alone. Every decision you make to prioritize your growth, every boundary you set, every step you take toward becoming a better version of yourself is valid, and it requires no defense. When you embrace the idea that you owe no one an explanation for evolving, you begin to operate from authenticity rather than fear. You move through life confidently, unshaken by judgment or misunderstanding. You protect your energy, focus on what truly matters, and cultivate relationships and situations that align with your growth. You become a living example of progress, and that example is far more powerful than any words you could offer in justification. Evolution is a statement of strength, and the only explanation it requires is the life you now lead. When you complain, you focus on the problem, and the problem grows bigger in your mind. Complaints are like magnifying glasses for stress, turning every obstacle into something larger than it is. When you fixate on what's going wrong, you blind yourself to what's possible. You become trapped in a loop where the issue consumes your attention, energy, and creativity. Growth cannot happen in that space because growth requires focus, vision, and action. Complaining keeps you stuck in reaction, while solutions require deliberate, forward-thinking energy. Every complaint you make is a choice to dwell on limitation rather than opportunity. It reinforces the idea that circumstances are controlling you instead of the other way around. People who complain often feel frustrated, overwhelmed, or powerless, not because the challenges are insurmountable, but because they have trained their minds to fixate on the negative. Complaints are distractions from progress. They are walls that keep you from seeing the door. When you stop complaining, even for a moment, you create mental space to observe clearly, to think strategically, and to identify the actions that will move you forward. Relaxation, in this sense, is not laziness. It is a conscious act of stepping back from mental chaos to create clarity. When you relax, you remove the emotional charge from your situation, and suddenly, possibilities become visible. A solution that was invisible in the heat of frustration often appears when your mind is calm. People who react impulsively or complain constantly miss these moments. They are too busy arguing with reality rather than engaging with it constructively. Growth happens in the space between frustration and clarity, and that space is accessible only when you allow yourself to pause, breathe, and approach problems with composure. Complaining also affects your long-term trajectory. Every time you focus on what's wrong, you reinforce habits of resistance instead of adaptation. Growth is about adaptation, learning, and resilience. You can complain about challenges, or you can study them, learn from them, and leverage them for improvement. The difference is subtle but profound. One approach keeps you small and reactive, while the other allows you to expand, gain skill, and move closer to your goals. When you train yourself to relax instead of react, you develop the mindset of a problem solver rather than a victim. The habit of relaxing rather than complaining transforms not only your perspective, but also your environment. People are drawn to calmness and solution-focused energy. Complaining pushes others away or drains them, while relaxed composure inspires collaboration and trust. When you face challenges with poise, you attract opportunities and allies. You become someone who not only grows personally, but also elevates the people and circumstances around you. Real growth, then, is not just about overcoming obstacles. It is about creating the mental and emotional space where solutions naturally emerge, where progress is inevitable, and where complaining becomes irrelevant because it is no longer necessary. Relaxation under pressure is a skill few people ever truly master, and yet it is the defining difference between those who succeed and those who falter. Life will constantly throw challenges, surprises, and crises in your path. The world does not pause when you feel overwhelmed, and success rarely waits for emotional readiness. How you respond in these moments is far more important than the circumstances themselves. Professionals, leaders, and the truly wise have learned that the ability to remain calm is not passive. It is active mastery over yourself, your thoughts, and your energy. When pressure mounts, most people react instinctively. Their hearts race, their voices rise, and their focus narrows to fear and frustration. In those moments, clarity vanishes, and decisions become impulsive or misguided. But those who have mastered calm see differently. They breathe, observe, and evaluate before acting. They understand that every moment of composure is an opportunity to gain insight, to find solutions, and to assert control over a situation that feels chaotic. Calm is not denial. It is acknowledgement without surrender. It is the choice to face reality with clarity instead of emotion. Leaders and professionals know that composure is contagious. When you remain calm in high-stress situations, you influence the people around you. Panic spreads quickly, but calmness has an equal and opposite effect. Teams perform better, decisions are made faster, and trust is strengthened when someone exudes stability under pressure. Calm is power because it is visible to others and felt unconsciously, even if unspoken. It signals competence, control, and confidence in a way that words cannot replicate. Those who lose their composure, by contrast, reveal their insecurity and uncertainty immediately. Mastering calm is also about controlling internal chaos. Life will throw unexpected problems at every turn: deadlines, setbacks, criticism, and uncertainty. The key is not to eliminate stress, because stress is inevitable, but to prevent it from dictating your behavior. Emotional discipline allows you to respond intentionally rather than react impulsively. It separates amateurs from professionals, followers from leaders, and the weak from the wise. Those who act under pressure without losing composure demonstrate reliability, resilience, and strategic thinking. Calmness allows you to see opportunities where others see obstacles. Finally, mastering calm is mastering life itself. When you are able to maintain relaxation under pressure, you preserve your energy, protect your mental clarity, and maintain focus on your goals. Challenges stop being threats and become opportunities to grow and assert your presence. You no longer allow external circumstances to control your internal state. Instead, you operate from a place of strength, confidence, and clarity. Life is unpredictable, and pressures will always arise, but those who have mastered calm have discovered the secret to navigating it with poise. In essence, to master calm is to master your life, because nothing external can shake a mind that has learned to remain steady in the face of any storm.